Welcome to July. And we're starting to see the impact the shelter in place has had on the market dynamics in real estate. And I cannot stress this enough. The market is really fragmented. And strategies for negotiation and finding a home, buying, selling, they really differ on the mix depending on where you are. So just always keep that in mind. There's no generic story as such. But at a very high level, when we look at across the area, we're seeing two main things. Again, it differs, but two main trends that are emerging. And number one is areas that are not as central to the core Bay Area, they're having less market activity, less demand, which makes sense as people are more, they're reconsidering how much they need to pay in price to be close to their office work-wise versus move somewhere where their money will get them more, more bang for their buck, essentially. Bigger house, more updated house, bigger yard, and so forth. So location, that makes sense. And it might change once companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, and so forth of the world require people to come back to the office. But people in general tend to live in the moment, and rational or irrational, this is the dynamic that we're seeing, and it's kind of expected. Now, the second trend that's emerging, again, expected, there's a very different type of demand for single family homes versus townhomes versus condos. So again, makes sense because single family homes, a lot of people want more space, an extra room for an office to work from home, an extra room for the kid homeschooling and so forth, plus the yard space, the outdoor space. Condos, tough, very tough right now. Has been for a few weeks now, and some areas are more pronounced than others, and I'll show you in a minute how that reflects in the average median price here that we're seeing. But condos, especially the ones that don't have a yard or just have a balcony or no balcony, no outdoor space, and smaller condos, under 1,000 square feet, are probably taking the biggest hit because very few people want to buy that right now. Shelter in place, we might get another round of that, which means that people will get stuck in their 1,000 square foot home or less than 1,000 square feet, no access to outside. Pretty hard to take, pretty hard to convince a buyer to go for that. That market is still moving, just very slowly. In some areas, it can take, where we've seen condos on the market for 2 months, a month, price reductions. It really depends on the location of the condo. And the ones that are centrally located next to the big Silicon Valley names are taking probably the largest hit because that demand was always fueled by young professionals, millennials who really wanted to bike or walk to work, and they don't have to do that anymore. So the demand is still there. It's just very different expectations that need to be set with both buyers and sellers. So let me show you what that actually translates into number-wise. Look at Santa Clara County and San Mateo County and look at single-family homes versus condos and townhomes. Now, right off the bat, let's address the elephant in the room and ignore the inventory column for the change versus prior year, and then the pending sales and the actual sales in June. Simply because June, given how the shelter in place progressed and when realtors were allowed to show vacant homes versus owner-occupied homes and so forth, there was a big backlog of inventory there. And in June, it has kind of, balanced itself out, more or less. But the inventory numbers are useless to look at. So let's look at the sales median price. In Santa Clara County, the median price is up 3% versus last year. And in San Mateo County, it is up 8%. It's more pronounced in Santa Clara now that we're, second week into July already. And it makes sense because, again, single-family homes are experiencing more demand. And areas such as, areas that are more remote, if I go back to Santa Clara County as an example, Gilroy, up 14% from last year. Morgan Hill, 9%, San Jose, 4%. And if we look at South San Jose in particular, South, Santa Teresa area, Almaden, the more remote areas are experiencing more demand. Makes sense because those areas had the most bang for their buck before, but not as many people wanted to live there because it was too much traffic to get to the office. People are reevaluating that right now, what they can get. So there's just more activity there. And same thing for San Mateo County. Now, let's look at townhomes and condos. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to split the data in multiple listing servers between condos and townhomes, but I've been tracking this very closely in key markets, as far as an actual townhouse versus a condo. And condos are doing much worse than townhomes. Townhomes are kind of in the middle because a lot of them have more space. Most of them are 3 bedrooms at least, and a lot of them do have some kind of outdoor space. And it's not as enclosed as a condo. It's people can move around and not bump into other people in the household as frequently, which can give them more space and just you get the idea. So combined, even in June, sales were the price was down 11% in South Bay, and in North Bay, 6.5%. But there are fewer condos there, period. About 3 times more condos physically exist in South Bay. And if I look at July, this trend is continuing, and I'm not seeing any change in that. And again, let's look at where these prices are coming from. Cupertino, down 6%. Which company is in Cupertino? Starts with an A? Bitten apple. Los Altos, few condos there in general, so but it's centrally located. We've got Palo Alto, Mountain View, the very central locations essentially where prices were very high before. Those areas are taking the biggest hit. I'm curious about Milpitas here. Tesla? Anybody? Fremont? Fremont is in Alameda County. And the same thing with San Mateo County. Belmont is with the schools, and this county is more central in general. So I guess it makes sense not to see as big of an impact. But again, following the biggest companies in each city, the trend is very, very consistent. If somebody's thinking of getting moved and buying or selling or investing in real estate, it's very important to consider the microdynamics of the neighborhood. And it's also, it's very fragmented based on price. Condos, like I said, that are, under 1,000 square feet that are selling up to 900 or a million are very different than condos or townhomes that are going for 1.2 or 1.3 million. At that two location, Palo Alto, Mountain View, Belmont, Milpitas, makes a difference. So what I've been doing, just, I talk to a lot of people every single day, and very analytical, so keeping tab on the market and talking to realtors to figure out, in this location, this price point, we should see this kind of activity from the market. And if we don't, it means certain things about the home's value, price. And the key there is to act very quickly, because you don't want to lose that market momentum as a seller, but as a buyer, identifying those opportunities, or as an investor, identifying those opportunities where the listing side, the seller side, is not reacting to what the market is telling them. There's definitely leverage there as far as negotiation goes. It just comes down to knowing your market more than anything else. If you want more detail about a specific location, you know where to find me. 650-409-6542. Talk to you next month. Take care.